Welcome to Community Watch. My name is Greg Shropshire, and today me and Dr. Hershey will be talking to two city leaders as it relates to COVID-19. Just yesterday in Georgia, Governor Brian Kemp released some new guidelines, and we'll be talking to Mayor Bill Collins and City Manager Sammy Rich how that's going to affect the citizens of Rome. Community Watch starts now.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg, how you doing?
Doc, I'm doing fine. And yourself?
Fine. It's still taking some getting used to there. I'm not even sure. Of course, that's a virtual fist bump. If we were in the same room together, I don't think we'd be allowed to do that yet.
No, I don't think so. Not quite.
But we've got two just extraordinary guests today, that you mentioned in the intro, City Manager Sammy Rich and our Mayor Bill Collins, to talk about, a lot has been going on, as everyone knows. So welcome to the show, gentlemen.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yes, good morning.
It's great to see you, and I want to first of all just thank both of you for the excellent work y'all have done since the virus crisis has begun. I've been very impressed with the communication that I've seen on Facebook, and it's great to feel like your city leaders keep you informed about their thought processes and what's going on. So I appreciate that. Thank you both.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
I know because we are taping this on Tuesday, April 21st, and things are changing rapidly. And I know we're going to want to talk about Governor Kemp's speech yesterday. But first, I would like to ask you about the process that you went through early on when the commission made the decision to put Rome and then shortly thereafter Rome and Floyd County together into some COVID-19 restrictions ahead of the state. What were the circumstances that led y'all to make that decision, and tell us a little bit about what was going through your minds at the time?
Well, of course, we know the virus was already in our community at the time, and we knew how dangerous that situation was, and our citizens, of course, was on the front line. That we knew that we had to make some huge decisions about keeping them safe as well as ourselves. And we relied heavily on the CDC, the medical community. We involved all our health organizations from Floyd to Redmond to Harvard Clinic. We seek advice from them. We sat down and seek counseling from them as well, directions. And they was more than willing to share with us their thoughts and about the importance of washing our hands on a constant basis. The distance was important, as well as how could we begin the process to shelter in place to keep everybody from moving around so much. And so once we went through that process and all of us got a chance to sit down and consult about it, we figured it was time to act. We were working hand in hand with the county. Everybody was very interested in what was going to be the best practice going forward. So we got with the chairman over there and consulted with himself and his commissioners as well as the ones over here, and we worked with our Mr. Manager here, and he'll tell you further about putting together a plan. Go ahead, Sam.
Well, thank you, Mayor. And so I would first say, this situation is unlike anything any of us have had to face and deal with. And part of the challenge has been the speed that the situation has literally changed, and in some cases daily. And so to the mayor's credit, to the commission's credit, I'm proud that we are in a community that was able to take decisive and early action. And so, as mentioned, we're so blessed to be in a medical community that we've got the resources that we have, and to have those very candid conversations on the front end. And so, early on, we had a state declaration of the public health emergency. And I think we all, as sort of humans and people, you're trying to process, well, what is that going to mean? And what's it going to mean for me? And then, for me personally, as things continue to evolve and you're hearing about sports seasons getting canceled. And so, in my mind, when some of those things happen, it got real, in a hurry, guys. And so we went literally from 0 to 60 of, okay, we're in this, and now things are going to change drastically for us. And so one of the things that we did was the shelter-in-place order, and I think we were probably one of the early communities in the state to go ahead and get that. And so our order started back on March 24th, and so we that was a pretty bold move, and not without criticism. As we continue to see, if there's one thing that you're going to have plenty of, it's going to be opinions on do this, don't do that. In our business, what we know is we're never going to make everyone happy, but we're trying to do the most good. And so that's been our challenge. We implemented the shelter-in-place order which took effect on the 24th. Our order was going to run through April 7th. Then, of course, Governor Kemp's order, which came about the 2nd of April, and then, of course, that superseded. And so one of the gotchas for us as a community, and specifically as a local government, is when the statewide order came about, it basically made our local effort null and void, in the sense that we became spectators, and it was very clear in the governor's order that local governments could do no less or no more than what the state requirements were. And so in some cases, we might have been more restrictive in certain areas or less restrictive in certain areas, but it effectively took us out of the driver's seat for our local community. And so that was a bit of an uncertain time for us, but yet we've continued to operate. We've continued to focus on delivering the essential services, but it's really changed our world and how we do that as a city.
Sam and Mr. Mayor, like Doc said, y'all to be commended for what Rome and Floyd County has done. But with that said, where are we now? I know at one point, there was a lot of concern about the virus in Rome, and I'm quite sure still a lot of concern. But from your perspective, where are we now in terms of COVID-19?
Sure. Well, of course, the positives continue to grow. I think we're up to about 7 deaths right now. But you got to remember, we are a medical hub for this here region. And then we got nursing homes, which have been hit heavily. We continue to consult with our CDC and our health director, Dr. Gary Rocco, and Sammy and myself. We consult every day about what's the best practices is. But when we became spectators, and even more so this here week with the governor on yesterday, beginning the process to open some of the businesses up, that came as a little bit of a surprise this early. We are working on some plans, and I think we have a meeting on the 23rd with our chamber director, which has been in touch with Greer, our existing industry, and other small businesses to talk with them about a possible plan as to how they are going to protect themselves as well as the citizens that might patronize their business or work in their industry. And so we thought we was on the path of sharing with our industry and our small businesses as a way to keep safe in the event that the restriction came off what we thought was April the 30th. But now that some of the businesses have been given the right as of tomorrow to open up, then I'm hoping that our citizens take advantage of the web page that CDC put out to know about such things as continue to wash their hands. The distance is important, as well as other measures that they already are practicing. Even though it's open up, you got to understand and know that you are an individual that can think for yourself, and you have all the tools available to you as far as people putting it out there as to what your actions are. So we right now, as you heard Mr. Manager say, is got guidelines that we cannot restrict even further of what the government's put out. And so therefore it leaves a lot of the things that we thought we had in place are now going to begin to be open. So we're in a position where we're going to have to deal with that and hopefully make the best choices, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, and very well said. And I agree. I guess the bit of surprise was the assumption nothing would really open prior to May 1. And so we're all, in the process of trying to understand a little more. And of course, at the end of the day, it's a balancing act. And I certainly don't envy the governor's position of having to make the choice of balancing health and the economic vitality of so many businesses. And so it's a tough situation to be in. And nonetheless, I feel our role is to help our local community. We're trying to help decipher exactly what does all of this mean. And of course, as the mayor said, with businesses opening up this Friday, there are a number, but there are a number of limitations. And so I think it's going to be a baby steps approach, and we'll see how this is going to work. That, of course, leads up to next Monday when restaurants will be allowed to reopen. So it's going to be an interesting transition.
Sammy, I'm curious too about and I've listened to the governor's speech a couple of times now. And although he talked about the need to maintain some of our safety rules like social distancing, some of the businesses that are being allowed to open this week, it's pretty impossible to have any social distance. And a massage and tattoos. I don't know how you do a tattoo with any social distance. So, I mean, do y'all have a clear understanding of how that's going to work than we do?
No, we really don't. And that was one of the questions that really blew up immediately last night, specifically on the salon barber folks. How am I going to cut hair? And the answer is more details are coming this week from the governor's office. And so, again, the reality, you can't cut hair from 6 feet. I suspect it'll be a situation, gloves, masks being utilized, and heavy on the sanitation between customers.
All right. Well, we're coming up on our break here in just a few seconds. So this is a vital conversation. I want everyone to stay with us. We have a lot more to come. We'll be right back after this.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a Take Charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and we're joined today with the Mayor of Rome and the City Manager, Mayor Bill Collins, and Mr. Sammy Rich, the City Manager, and we're talking about COVID-19 and how it affects and is affecting Rome, Georgia. But gentlemen, I want to go back for a second. As I've been hearing in the news, with this terrible virus, it has been disproportionately affecting the African-American community. And as an African-American, and with many family members, including myself, with underlying health concerns, how is it affecting Rome? Of the positives that we have, do we know what percentage or the number of African-Americans? Because I'm hearing this number locally and nationally, but no one is actually showing hard numbers. And because of that, I'm just wondering if the African-American community is taking this to heart as much as we should, because we hear it's disproportionately affecting us, but we're not really seeing numbers, or at least I'm not. So do we know of the positives in Rome, what percentage and what number are African-American?
Great question.
That's a great question. As the manager said, Mr. Shropshire, I can tell you that we don't know, and I have not asked the question. Of course, we have been hearing this nationally, as well as our news out of Atlanta, etc. With that being said, I have just taken the initiative upon myself to stay in touch with the enforcers of the gathering of more than 10 such things as that relates to what our culture called for us to be involved with, like basketball, etc. We're taking those goals down because our Black and brown families are not adhering to a lot of what was associated with the game of basketball. You go by the courts and you see a great number of them still playing ball, more than 10, sometimes there's 20 of the Afro-Americans as well as the Latinos. We took action early on to shut down the inner city parks because we knew that possible was going to be a congregating place. I can tell you it has not been a great deal of pushback from that as well. We understand, and I think the public understands and knows that the young folks sometimes have to come home and of course bathe, eat, interact with grandmoms and their moms, etc. And a lot of those are the working segment, bringing the bread home. And if those guys are bringing those viruses home, it affects them in a big way. So I myself, we even shut down the tennis, etc. around here. We didn't leave any race or segment of people out when it comes to trying to keep our citizens safe. I think the only exercise going on is walking and golf. Would you say, Mr. Mayor?
I would agree with that.
And so we're doing things that we are hearing is part of what this virus has created. And we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that we take the necessary action to do the right thing. I think that the public out there going forward should take a look at the fact that we're sitting here and we're communicating over Zoom. That should tell them that, look, even your leaders out there, they understand and know this thing is not, in their opinion, over. We're not meeting yet, and well, I don't think we have any plans to open up, do we, Sam?
That's
So there you go, Mr. Manager.
Yeah, just we would agree with that. And so, Greg, I'll go back. Your question is great. I don't have the numbers off the cuff, but I can tell you the Department of Public Health, they are their data is on a very high level, and I am certain with a little research we could really dig down a little deeper and see what the specific impact has been for our community in terms of the demographic. But to the mayor's point, I agree. we basically looked at everybody in this entire boat of Rome Floyd County and pleading, with our citizens and community, let's take this seriously. The sooner we get, we buckle down, hopefully the sooner we get out of this.
I wanted to ask about the process of a community, a city like Rome, making a decision about their city, their confines, their city and county, and how that fits in with what's happening statewide. We talked about how you stepped forward early on and made some decisions about Rome. When the governor has a decree, a position that he sets forward, where does that put Rome leaders in terms of what you can do or how you move forward next?
Well, of course, I'm sure it's a lot on the minds of all 9 of us. We consult through emails, phone calls, and then we collaborate through our manager, and he does the same thing to make sure all of us are on the same page as to the actions going forward. We try also to continue the business of the city. Santa has a pretty healthy role of trying to make sure that with all the businesses closed, all the things that we're trying to do to help our citizens out, to make sure he man the ship and keep it afloat. And that's tough. And then when you have the medical community telling you, stay sheltered in place, try to maintain the 6 feet apart, and to wear your gloves and your mask and wash your hands. And then when you have such things that come out like what come out yesterday from the governor, and you knowing that in your mind, people that cut hair and does massages and tattoos, that's impossible to see how that fit into what us as leaders are trying to achieve. So you have to, in my mind, deal with what you've been dealt and try to encourage the citizens to stay as safe as they possibly can. I don't know, and I wish I did, have a answer for how it is that we become one of the first states to, out of the gate, with the numbers still going up, to be the ones that open up. I don't know how that happened. And then you're hearing things that are conflicting with what you're preaching. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Agreed.
Well, you know what? Listen to you, Mr. Mayor. I can sense, I sense you're really frustrated to a certain degree about, because it's very conflicting. But at the same time, people, a lot of businesses may not return from this. They might not recover. And once we get past this, that becomes an immediate concern. How do you get the economy back rolling? From a business perspective, how do you know how the businesses of Rome and Floyd County, small businesses particularly, how are they doing right now?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, great question, and I agree with you, Greg. I think there are going to be some business casualties, and that's a very unfortunate situation, and highly frequently for us, we rely upon help from the federal government and or the state government. And so in this case, we're in-house now. We're working on some federal dollars. We're trying to roll out, and so we've got a community development committee meeting coming up later this week to try to put together some framework to where we can basically take a $258,000 allotment of community development block grant funds to be able to roll that out and perhaps say $5,000 increments so that local businesses could get in line to receive that money to try to sustain and continue their operations. And so what we know is there's a very mixed bag here. There's some businesses that have boomed, and there are some businesses that have had to let all the staff go, and they're literally hanging on by a thread. And so that's one of the difficulties of dealing with this situation is it has gravely impacted some more than others, and I hate that. But that has been our reality, and that's just one of the unfortunate things that come from this. We're trying to help in any way we can, and namely trying to stay ahead of communications and doing what we can to partner, whether it's with our local chamber, the local small business center, to put resources where they're most needed and as quickly as possible.
Let me ask, we still don't know the ramifications of the governor's decisions that he announced yesterday. We don't know how that's going to play out yet. It's too new. But in the period from March, when you put your shelter in place policy together to now, I know that the rules that are in place are, I would think, nearly impossible to monitor or police in any real way. Are you getting the sense that people, for the most part, are cooperating or are working with you? I mean, have there been serious problems with citizens breaking these rules that you've been aware of?
I would just say to you that the businesses are keenly aware of what the governor's orders are. Our restrictions that we had in place when he did come out the first time, it was some businesses that, hey, I feel like now I can open my doors back up. And they did that. And it wasn't anything with our hands being tied that we could actually do. We thought we had some restrictions in place that actually was helping keep the citizens of Rome safe. And those things were changed the very first time that the governor came out with his restrictions. It also, remember that he put all law enforcement force making sure that all of these things were done the manner in which he wanted them done, went to the sheriff department, which had in turn to turn around and deputize some of our law enforcement people to even handle the business of the city. And for your question is whether or not the businesses have cooperated and took the path of safety over selfishness and keeping a business going, man, I would give Rome an A. They have been doing a great job.
I have to agree. I know we're short on time, and I would just add, Mayor, the numbers are what the numbers are. I think our community can be proud that we took deliberate action and we have flattened the curve, and let's hope for the best that we're going to beat this thing.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate you and what you're doing. And thank you all for joining us on Community Watch. We will see you next time.